Hello, we apologize for the tech issue. It is 4:07 Eastern time, which means it is time for the Audible. Thank you for your patience. We have Donnie, Rightside, and the Whale Capper ready to rock, ready to break down all of these games. And we have incredible cappers in the chat, pumped and ready to go. Robert Weimer, Sean Mick, Jimmy CC, Joe Yurkovich, Vitalis, Sean Mick, Nut Flush, Alan, Tomarino, Tomar, Yu, Chang, Yu, A.M., Gerald, Jones, Nick, O, D-Tay, Duggs. What a team. DX Filer. Let's get to work. Corey Shapiro. Let's get to work. Donnie Rightside, Football Friday. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. We put up a little bit of a fight this morning in the early show, and now some things are settling in, Jimmy. We got some action-packed stuff to go over today. I'm excited, man. Football Friday. You're absolutely correct.
I am pumped. I am pumped as well. Whale Capper, happy Friday to you. Great to see you. How you doing, my man?
I'm well, man. Game faces on today, though, guys. Game faces. We're coming. We're taking. We're getting it back this Sunday. I cannot wait for this card. A lot of looks. I'd like to hear what Donnie has to say, what his angles are on this weekend. So this is going to be a great Football Friday Audible. Let's get rolling.
Yes. Let's also start with my horrifying record. And I want to say something. I'm not going to sit here and whine and bitch. I'm not going to deliver a cry for gags. I will tell you this. Pop it up. I will tell you this. I'm going to be up at least 6 units with my futures. At a minimum, I'll be up 6 units with my futures that are not bad. I have 5 more weeks before the regular season's over. I can easily get 15 units back. I can easily be down single digits going into the playoffs. I can get this back 2+ units. I can. It's the book that I was read when I was 3 years old, and I believe it, baby. That's right. I'm not going to go out without a fight. I'm going to go out without a fight. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it. We all have seen how bad it's gone so far this year. Get this shit back. All right. Now that I've done that, let's get to work. I'm exhausted after that. Okay, let's get to work right now. We're going to start with Dolphins, Browns. Here we go. I've only locked in 4 plays. I'm very close to adding 2 more. The guys have plays locked in. Whale Capper is fresh off a victory with the Colts plus 3.5 yesterday. And we're going to start with a game that I'm already on, getting to the best odds page in the business at sportsbookreview.com. Here we go. NFL spreads and totals. I'm on the over 45.5 at -110 in Dolphins, Browns. Miami's roster just keeps taking beatings. Rashad Jones, Bobby McCain, gone. Mark Walton, cut. That's what happens when you punch pregnant girlfriends, Mark. He's gone. Dolphins ranked next to last in NFL rushing defense. The Browns have Nick Chubb. Miami gave 168 yards on the ground last week, 114 in the first half. And then after the whole Myles Garrett melee, we know that the Browns defense is a mess. And now they don't have Olivier Vernon either. So no Ogunjobi, no Myles Garrett, no Morgan Burnett. He tore his Achilles tendon. I just feel like there can be points. It's 41 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 14 miles per hour wind. The weather has gotten worse in a lot of these markets that we were talking about being okay on Tuesday, though there's rain in a bunch of them now. But this one is fine. 41 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 14 miles per hour wind. Donnie Rightside, I'm on the over 45.5. Dolphins, Browns, I finally pulled the trigger.
This might be one of the cleanest looks we've had all week with everything loading up. You're talking about weather conditions. You want to keep it under 15 miles an hour. Looks like I'm showing 12 to 13 miles an hour. You'd like to keep it in the 40s. I'm showing, 41, 42 at game time. By the end of the game, 44, 45 degrees. We were trying to guess right on some injury information. Myles Garrett's now going to be out for this football game. Obviously, Ogunjobi, he didn't get his suspension reduced. He will be out for this football game. Olivier Vernon had a good shot to come back this week. They're going to shelve him. And why not? It's the Miami Dolphins. And also, you're talking about another key member of the secondary that's going to be down in this game. A lot of right points are going our way for what you're looking to do, whether it be a total in this football game or even looking at a side. Yeah, look, you're looking at -11, 10.5s out there. Sure, that's a tough number always to cover. Miami playing a little bit better football. But what I like in this football game, I think the Browns are going to be able to name their number, get into the high 20s, low 30s in this football game. I would be really surprised if they even opened up slow in this game, Jimmy. I'm looking for 17+ points in the first half alone, which is going to bring me to one of my audible plays at the the end of the show that we will preview. -6.5 in the first half for the Browns. The same way we took an approach last week, Jim, with the Oakland Raiders, saying, wait a second, this is perfect. 17-7, 17-10, 21-10, 21-7, whatever it is going to be at the end of the half. I really like the first half of this one. I think the Cleveland Browns shine in this football game. When we look at some of the things that they go, last 4 games, if you're an offense, hey, Donnie, but they're not all there, and Baker Mayfield, well, if you play the Patriots, Broncos, Bills, and Steelers D, how good are you supposed to look? You're going to get a breather. The bottom of the league is coming to Cleveland. Cleveland will take an advantage of this football game. Give me the Cleveland Browns first half. Give me the Cleveland Browns team total. And give me the over in the damn game as well, Jimmy.
Wow. Because only one of them is an official play at this point. Is that right, Donnie?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think we're going to have to maybe up that by the end of the show, Jimmy.
Okay, because you give me the word, I'll line shop like a band. You give me the word, I start line shopping, Donnie. Anytime you need that line shopping, Donnie, I'm right here. Sean Mick, coming off a perfect 4-0 week, says, I think Browns maul the Dolphins. Torino says Browns would have had momentum off of last week, but for the suspension, I won't lay double digits with a sloppy team like Cleveland. Yu Chang Yu says Browns win huge. Also like the over. Robert Weimer says the Clownies get it done with the large number. Whale Capper, Dolphins, Browns.
Yeah, this sounds like an audible consensus. I'm on the over here, and I would actually look to sell a couple points. I think they get over 46.5 here. I bet that at +117. This sets up very well for a get-right spot for the Cleveland Browns offense. You have a couple of weeks now where Baker Mayfield has played clean football. He's not turning it over anymore. This sets up perfectly for him now with virtually no secondary players left for the Dolphins to absolutely let it rip. Let it rip. Get your get-right spot. Get your momentum and your confidence back. And throw for 4 or 5 touchdown passes in this game. Get your numbers up with Odell Beckham. Let him get his. Let Landry get his. This is a perfect spot for the Browns to just unload offensively, which means we just need the Dolphins to get us a couple of points. And their major weakness on offense is their offensive line. But guess what? All of the players who are capable of generating pressure, who are capable of getting sacks for the Browns, are going to be out of this game because of suspension or injury. So this sets up pretty well for the Dolphins to get on the scoreboard a couple times. And kind of like Donnie said, I think the Browns pick their number here. I'm expecting this one to land kind of in the high 40s, low 50s. Maybe the Browns get this over by them damn selves.
I love it. By the way, Dan Kelly, interested in these Dolphins money line. He also put what he calls a look-ahead fade moneyline parlay, Dolphins Bengals, 16-1 is what that pays out for the great Dan Kelly. Donnie Rightside, should I line shop for you right now?
Line it up. Line it up. Let's go. Come on. Let line shop it. Give me the over on the show right now. Line shop for me. Let's peg that in there.
The over, the best over I can give you is over 45.5 at -110, available at both Bookmaker and Intertops. There you go.
Lock it in, baby.
There you go. So I'm just going to put this because that's the same that I got. So that's for DRS. There we go. And is there a team? Did you want, what were you thinking of also adding a team total, or is that good for you?
Yeah, I'll lay low on that one for now. We'll keep it in. We'll keep that double shot there for Cleveland first half, and we'll go the total on that one as well. We'll go with that.
And staying off the full game. Okay, I like it. Donnie's adding a play. First game in. I am pumped. Okay, let's move on to Broncos Bills here. Broncos, Bills. Buffalo opened up at -5 let me make sure I've got Pinnacle opening lines. I do at Pinnacle. It's now -4. This total opened up at 36.5. It's now at 37.5 at Pinnacle, but 37 at a lot of other books. 41 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 15 miles per hour. The Bills offense puts up 424 yards against Miami. Allen earns Offensive Player of the Week. But again, the same things haunting the Bills. Their wins have come against teams entering with the combined record of 15-55. So this should be a nice spot for them. But Denver looked very good early. They looked very good early in that 27-23 loss to Minnesota. They looked very good for 3 quarters. Miller has just 4 sacks on the year. Tim Patrick has come back. So they have Cortland, Patrick, and Noah Fant going. They're all 6'4", which should help them. Their offense should be better if Allen is up to the task. The other Allen here. I was talking about the Bills quarterback there at first. Okay, Buffalo has allowed just two passing touchdowns in its past 3 games. Only 7 passing touchdowns all year. Let's start with Donnie Rightside, Broncos, Bills.
I agree with the line movement here. It's a tough spot for the Denver Broncos to be, and you go on the road versus Minnesota. Now you're going to go back-to-back road games against teams that look like they're going to be playoff material. But I can't give by what they've actually done. Look at the last 4 out of 5 games. Beat Tennessee 16-0. Dropped one to Kansas City, which was an ugly game. Then you go to Indianapolis in that game, lose late on a field goal, beat the Cleveland Browns, and you should have beat the Minnesota Vikings on the road. Two similar teams to me. Athletic young quarterbacks, not the best passers, not a ton of weapons on the outside. You want to try to get physical and run the football. Both of these defense can make stops, and you can actually argue that the Denver Broncos really have a better defense than the Buffalo Bills. I agree with the line movement, -5 down to -3.5 at most outlets here. Will I be playing this to make an official play? No, but I actually am leaning towards the Denver Broncos in this game. I think styles make fights. I can see this game not being a blowout either way, so I'll lean on the points. If you got the points early in the week at the 5, congratulations. But hey, I still like it as long as you're getting 3.5 or higher. I think the Broncos are going to be live in this game, Jimmy.
Is the fact that it's back-to-back road games for these Broncos part of the reason why you're staying off?
That's a tough one, yes. But also, I still like the Buffalo Bills. You're talking, it's crazy because you're breaking this game down. You forget that one team's 3-7, one team is 7-3. That was a nice get-right game last week for the Buffalo Bills. But again, you played a bottom feeder type defense. So now you're going to go like we just talked about the Cleveland Browns. Whereas if you're going with a tough defense to a weak defense, it's the exact opposite here. You're going from a cream puff to now you're going to face one of the elite defenses in the NFL.
Interesting, because the more I think about it, the more I think this game could be decided by a field goal, and getting the 4 from the Broncos might work. Whale Capper, Broncos, Bills.
I'm staying away from this one for a couple reasons. Number one, we've seen Brandon Allen exceed expectations 2 weeks in a row. Can he do it for a third week? Can he do it in a hostile environment again? Can he do it with the second straight week of traveling? These are all questions. I think that Donnie's handicap is strong. I think it's the right side for sure, especially if you got it earlier in the week when it was 5. Good chance that the Bills are thinking about Thanksgiving. They're going to Dallas. They're going to be in the spotlight. That's going to be their biggest game of the season. This is not a great spot for them to take on a team that's not playing for anything, and that they think they're coasting, they're cruising, they're on their way to the 5 seed in the playoffs. This is a tough spot for them, and that I would say that the Broncos have a shot at running it down their throats. There are a couple of places in that Buffalo Bills defense that are vulnerable, and if they roll in there with a heavy Phillip Lindsay approach and he's having a nice game, then they're going to do some damage. I do worry, though, a little bit about the performance of Brandon Allen in this, if he can keep up the level we've seen the last couple weeks, because surely the market doesn't entirely believe in him still. Because all other things being equal, this should be about a 3-point game because these two teams are power rated pretty damn closely. So tough one to cap for me at this point, especially with the line move, and I'll be staying away, but looking out for any kind of signs of, Buffalo figuring things out with Josh Allen, because, there's probably right now no greater disparity between what people think about a team and a quarterback in the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen than what my numbers say, which is that he's like clearly one of the bottom 5, maybe a bottom 2 quarterback that's getting starts right now in the NFL. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities here down the home stretch to take some swings, fading these Buffalo Bills potentially if they keep getting wins, if they keep getting covers. But this week I'm staying away.
This week, staying away. At this point, all 3 of us are staying away. Tormino says, I'm on the Bills. Denver playing 2 straight road games off a tough loss. Allen sucks. He should regress. DX Father says, I like the Bills. Their defense is coming along. Tormino says, Minnesota was flat last week. Brendan W. says, Broncos can hang there. Denver D can stop the run. Robert Weimer says, like the Broncos, they can run on the Bills. Now and we'll have trouble throwing the ball. And if it's crappy weather, that is even better. Also, like the over, oddly enough. Wow, over. Craig77 leaning to the Bills, but this game could be close there. Sunny Vega in the house joining us. Love seeing that. Okay, let's keep rolling. I have added a lean to the Broncos. A lean to the Broncos. +4, but I'm not going to make a play at this point. Let's go to Steelers, Bengals, a mess. This is a mess. So no Juju, no Connor. Both are out. Marquise Pouncey, that's what happens when you stomp Marquise Pouncey. All you had to do was throw a punch, but you got to stomp on somebody's face. That's what happens, Marquise Pouncey, when you fight like a bitch. you get suspended for a couple games for stomping on somebody's face. Pittsburgh has allowed 15 sacks on the season, second fewest in the league. What's going to happen with Pouncey out? And even with Pouncey out, they weren't able. They're 28th in rushing all year. Benny Snell may be back. They need him back badly. When these teams met in September, the Steelers 8 sacks at Heinz Field in September. The Steelers have taken 12 of 13, 17 of 20. They've won 6 in a row at Paul Brown Stadium. Tomlin's 20-5 all-time against Cincinnati. You know, Dunlap and Atkins are the only things going for these Bengals right now. But the Bengals played the Raiders tough, and I have a lean towards these Bengals right now. I just feel like they can cover this number. Let's talk about the number. It opened at 6. It's now 6.5. There's a 7 at Bovada at minus 125 if you want it for Cincy. And this total keeps dropping. And understandably so. And I know a lot of people on the under. This might be a slam dunk under. It's 39.5. It's now at 38. Noli knows calls these dead unders. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Donnie Rightside.
Yep, that's another one of my plays here on the Audible. I'm going to lean on the under 38.5, Jimmy. And the reason being is like you try to take it's a new quarterback, obviously, so we can't look at what Andy Dalton did. Even though when Andy Dalton was in there, 17-point last 5-game snapshot, 17 points, 17 points, and 10 points. Then you come out of the bye week, supposed to be rested and ready. You're supposed to get your quarterback some looks and have a lot of plays schemed up. And in a blowout loss, which is the worst kind, you only score 13 points when the other team is drubbing you by 4 to 5 touchdowns. You should be able to rack up some yardage. You should be able to rack up some points. They weren't able to do that. And they say, all right, well, let's get right. We're going to go play the Oakland Raiders. My goodness, nice weather. We're going to be able to have a much stronger outcome. 10 points against the Raiders. Now you step up against a top 5 defense, and players are even more injured in this football game because forget about even looking at Cincinnati and what they can't do on offense. On Tate goes down last week. That's another weapon that's gone. A.J. Green's still going to be invisible. So if you're just going to lean on Joe Mixon, but if you take a look at the Pittsburgh side, what are you getting out of quarterback Mason Rudolph at this point anyway during the season? This is one of those games, Jimmy, where, you know, if you're watching it, you figured it might be in like black and white from like the early or late 1930s where the forward pass was just coming into play and they're like throwing it 2 hands on the football over like, you know, 5. I mean, this is going to be an embarrassing offensive football game. I think Pittsburgh is going to hold serve just because of their defense, going to be able to clamp down and give themselves some good field position. But if you're not going to have Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, and a quarterback that's not playing very well with his center that's going to be out, who's the quarterback of the offensive line, if they get over 40 points, I'm going to tip my hat and move on. I don't think that's going to be possible. Give me the under 38.5 in this game.
The under 38.5 is I should just get on it. I don't know why. I'm just sitting here staring at it. But I also think the Bengals can cover this. If I gave you a free play on the side right now, Donnie, who would you take?
You know, it's kind of funny you said that. I would lean towards the Bengals in the situation just because I don't think Pittsburgh can put this one out of reach. And I'll take a home team getting close to 7 in that.
I think I'm going to pull the trigger. I really think I'm going to pull the trigger unless Whale Capper talks me off this. Steelers, Bengals, Whale Capper.
Guys, we are rowing the boat in the same direction today. This is an entirely this game is a mess. You said it right. When keeping it real goes wrong for Marquise Pouncey, he's going to be missing this game. That's huge. The one strength, a couple of players that are playing well, you nailed it. The defensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. Mason Rudolph has been horrific this season in its entirety, and especially lately, he really is struggling to complete passes down the field. Now you take away his top receiver and Juju Smith-Schuster. His other guys are banged up, questionable all over the place. This is a very, very, very tough task for me to see either of these teams breaking 17 points here, which means 38.5, 38, 37.5. All of those are live unders in my opinion. And I think that like was mentioned, I think Cincinnati very much in the hunt for potentially getting their first win of the season. This is not a good spot at all for Pittsburgh. And, you know, I like Pittsburgh team total under. I like Cincinnati +7. I might even consider Cincinnati money line because, you know, this really does set up pretty well for field position controlling the game state. Who can whose special teams are clicking on any given day, who's making missing field goals, who's committing penalties, who's playing cleanly. And while, you know, clearly in the first matchup, the Pittsburgh defense was incredible. They dominated. There's no denying that. Like, the only thing I'm a little scared about being on the under is that somehow, some way, Pittsburgh defense scores like 2 or 3 touchdowns. But other than that, this should be a very hard-fought, very closely contested game. Cincinnati going to be in it at the end with a chance to win likely. and give me under 38.5 in this one, and I'll feel pretty good about this.
So at my book right now, you like the under, if you would take under 38, because you're talking about Pittsburgh team total. Pittsburgh team total at my book is 23.5. That's
crazy. Yeah. I don't see them getting it without multiple defensive scores. Seriously. I mean, how? Like, how are they doing it? Who is moving the ball here? All of a sudden, Mason Rudolph's going to be this unbelievable precision passer to the C, D, and E receivers on the Steelers. Like, there's no way. And on top of that, the offensive line was so much of their success was being physical, was originating from one of their tone setters in Marquise Pouncey. Now you add in a new center. Is this going to be a sloppy kind of game where you're having fumbles and miscommunications between the center and Mason Rudolph? Mason Rudolph has been totally shook these last couple of weeks. He doesn't look like anywhere close to a competent NFL level quarterback. And so, yeah, I mean, realistically, defensive touchdowns are the only thing that spooked me at all, especially with this, super low total.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that shots have to be fired here. They have to be fired here. I'm gonna get on Bengals. I'm gonna get on the team total under for the Steelers and the full game under. I'm going to do that. Okay, let's keep rolling along. Right now we have Giants Bears is next on the docket. Let me grab the odds here from sportsbookreview.com. Best odds page in the business. Spreads and totals. Let's get after it right here. Giants. Bears open up at -6. Now they're 6. There is 6.5 left at Bookmaker. There were a couple recently, but they're gone. This total opened up at 40.5. Pinnacle's hanging at 39.5, and there's 40s everywhere else. 45 Fahrenheit in Chicago. Partly cloudy, 11 miles per hour is the weather. Trubisky is good to go, and he has looked absolutely terrible this year. 9 touchdowns, 4 picks in 9 games. Only 3 teams allowed fewer points than the Bears. Their defense is strong still. It's their offense that is so bad right now. And now Eddie Pinheiro can't kick a field goal. He's missed 3 straight field goals, 4 of his past 7. The Giants have lost 6 in a row. They're coming off a bye. I was going to take them. Like I got talked off taking them on Tuesday. I was very interested in taking them. Here we have SBR Forum letting us know the guys cleared from concussion protocol. And we talked about this on Tuesday. Sterling Shepard, Nate Solder, and Janoris Jenkins all cleared. Shermer needs a win here. Saquon Barkley needed that bye desperately. He's looked terrible. 72, 64, 28, and 1 yard rushing over his last 4 games. The Giants defense, 289 points in 10 games. That's 4th worst in the league. 24 turnovers, 2nd highest in the league. 14 fumbles lost, worst in the league. Defense has allowed 41 pass plays of 20 yards or more. A league high 12 of 40 or more. And I guess that's what ended up just making me do not anything. But at this point, at 39, I feel like the over is in play, at least. If I can be talked off the Giants, but Donnie Rightside, is the over in play? New York Giants, Chicago Bears.
It's hard. It should be in play. I mean, it honestly should be, but it just gets back to the point. We're going to hash on this probably for the next 5 to 6 weeks until the Bears are out of the playoffs. We'll have to talk about them again. It's amazing how Mitchell Trubisky, because you look at the numbers last year, Jimmy, a top 5 QBR quarterback in the NFL. How can in 1 year go from like a top 5 to like 40th overall? And keep in mind, there's only 32 starters in the NFL at this point. I mean, he has been horrendous. When you try to factor in and say, well, he's going to catch a little bit of a breather against the New York Giants, it doesn't really seem to matter who's catching a breather because nobody on their offense can make a play. Allen Robinson is like the only weapon, if you even want to call that. And you can see when he runs routes and he's just not getting the ball. It's like, why am I even open? You can't get me the football from a quarterback position. Trubisky goes out last week with some weird hip injury in the last couple minutes of the football game, and now he's going to be okay to start. A really good day for the Bears, like we said on the morning show, Jimmy, 14 to 17 points. I can't say, you know what, the Giants aren't going to score more than 10 in this football game. I'll stay with the same thing we've been saying since weeks 1 and 2 and 3. If the Bears are laying more than 3.5 points, they're absolutely a no bet, and I'll keep that same moniker this week. The one thing I always get interesting about Matt Nagy as a head football coach, when you look at their tight ends coming into the season, they had some pretty athletic guys that you figure would be able to help out in some situations. When your quarterback is really struggling, the best pass is not not the 17 to 20-yard out. It's the dump over the middle for 5 to 6 yards to their tight end. I don't think they've gotten more production at tight end if you didn't even have a tight end lined up on the roster. It's amazing how inefficient this offense is. I can't back them anything more than 3 points. They should win this football game against the Giants at home, but good luck with that. I will be nowhere near this game, Jimmy.
Man, I'm getting close. Vitalis says I'd rather have Cutler out there than Trubisky. The Sports 78 says I'd rather have Jeff George out there than Trubisky. Jeff Billings is putting 100 on the Giants with the points, the Giants money line, and the over here. Jeff Billings is rolling right now, and he's getting me close to the window here. Should I just leave this game alone? Because, man, I feel like this is a spot where a tricky over could be in play. Whale Capper, Giants, Bears.
I see a tiny edge in the Bears, and I see a tiny edge in the over. But that's just based on the numbers. Honestly, if you're making a bet on this game, it's entirely in the sphere of I'm fading Team X. You can't reasonably make a case that either of these teams is going to do well. Is that they have something figured out, that they're going to magically come out and look competent all of a sudden. Daniel Jones may eventually be a fine quarterback in this NFL, but right now he is a turnover machine, and he is playing a ball hawking unit in the Bears defense that should come up with 2 or 3 turnovers on Sunday. That should tilt things in their favor. The fact that they're at home should tilt things in their favor. Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy, man, this duo has absolutely sunk each other this year. Between Trubisky's play and Nagy's play calling and what he's asking him to do, it's incredible how far and how fast they've fallen. And I thought Donnie's point was pretty sound on what's going on there. And two franchises that I think are kind of lacking in leadership from the management and from the ownership standpoint. And I don't know where either one goes from here. And it's a shame that these two kind of historic franchises in these major markets are in this state of affairs. But I don't think, this is a disappointment bowl here. Bears and Giants, two teams that just absolutely, have no direction, have nothing positive to look forward to the way I look at these two teams. And in this game will be one that I will gladly avoid on Sunday morning.
Oh, man. Getting that itchy trigger finger right now. Okay, I'm going to stay off and keep studying this at this point. But I just feel like points can be scored. And Trubisky, look at the difference between who Trubisky faced last week and who he's going to face this week. He's just going to have a much, much easier time of it. And we know that the Giants are going to fire at will. A strip sack for an easy score by the Bears. 39. God, I find it interesting. Okay, let's keep rolling along. Next up, Raiders, Jets. Oh, I find this such a fascinating game. Oakland opening up at -3.5. Now they're at -3. Teddy Covers pounced in Vegas when a book opened up at 2.5 for the Raiders, and he took that. This total opened up at 47, and you can still get it at 47 at Bookmaker, but it's 46.5 everywhere else. I was initially going to take the over, and I also didn't know when we did the weather on Tuesday, it's changed a lot, and now we have 45 Fahrenheit rain and wind at 12 miles per hour. Wind at 12 miles per hour. Derek Carr, Raiders got what they wanted, that 3-game home sweep. 6-4, but they're just 1-3 on the road. We remember that win at Indianapolis, lost at Minnesota, Green Bay, and Houston. They did win on the road, though. Jacobs is rolling, but that's the only thing that this Jets team can do. They're allowing a league low 79 yards rushing per game. They held Washington, but I know Washington terrible to 54 last week. And Jamal Adams stepping up in a big way from the safety position, getting sacks. The Raiders are getting a ton out of their rookies right now. Max Crosby, 4-sack game. Cleveland Farrell had 2.5 sacks 2 weeks ago. Foster Moreau, 4 TD catches. Hunter Renfrow, 33 catches and 2 TDs. And now, all of a sudden, Derek Carr's averaging an NFL best 9.2 yards per attempt over the past 6 weeks. That was why I was initially going to be on the over until the rain came and got me off of it at this point. Donnie, Rightside, Raiders, Jets.
It's a good game. It really is. And early in the week, Jimmy, this is when I circled and said, you know what, this is going to be a great total game. And I think a lot of things match up really well because, again, you have to stick with the numbers that you have. Oakland's been a really good performing offense, and their defense has been underwhelming at times. And also, I like to look at some recent hot streaks that you have from a couple games ago for the Jets on offense. They were seeing ghosts. But all of a sudden, back-to-back games, you can reach into the 30s, you get those good vibes, you come back home. But the one thing keeping me right now off of pushing that is, number one, it jumped up a little bit. So there's even 47 showing out there. We talked earlier on the morning show that we're looking at a lot of rain as a possibility, and especially earlier in the morning. By kickoff, you're looking at 85 to 90% precipitation. That's going to taper off as the game goes on. But I would hate to be one of those football games where it's raining sideways or it's coming down in just sheets of rain saying, you know what, I knew better. I saw this coming in and still pushed the trigger. This is one of the games I probably would wait until game day to get a realistic look at what the weather actually is. If weather's not going to be too bad, I would be all about this over again, even taking it up to the 47, because I think both of these teams can get into the 20-point range. This is a wait-and-see approach, but the one thing that's interesting here is I do agree with Oakland being the favorite, but I got to tell you, even early in the week when we talked on the Audible, sometimes I was getting myself confused, like, oh, the Jets are the favorite. But no, it says the Oakland Raiders -3. If that's, less than 3, I agree. But at 3, I might be leaning towards the Jets here at home. It's a stay away on the side, but if we get some good weather for me, Jimmy, I like the over here.
Robert Weimer says, if it is rain, I'm staying off the total. It's rain at this point. Carr 2-8 in his career games that started under 50 degrees with a 66.3 passer rating in those 10 games. But he says that's ridiculous. I love the cold. I want to play in the cold. And I guess you would have to say that to believe that you're going to be fine in cold temperatures. But he's never fared well in cold temperatures. And it's not that cold, though. It's not that cold. Whale Capper, Raiders, Jets.
Yeah, this is one where I wish I had heard Donnie's advice earlier in the week, because I did play the over, and now I'm regretting it. I got a good number relative to the market, so if it's for whatever reason, if pressure keeps coming in and pushing this number up, I'll probably look to try to grab a middle on 47. But this is a game where I handicapped on, in a neutral situation. In the Meadowlands, I think with the way that the Jets are playing right now on offense and the way that you can attack the Raiders in certain ways, and I give Gase credit. He is, he didn't, they didn't quit on him, and he didn't quit on his team. He's still preparing hard. He's coming up with good game plans. He's giving his young quarterback a chance to develop and succeed. So credit to them. Good job. You're moving in the right direction. I think they're alive in this game. I agree with Donnie's assessment of 3 entirely. I made this a 1 or 2 point game, not a 3-point game. I think 26-24 probably reasonable. I think if the Jets have the ball late and can come up with a game-winning drive, I won't be shocked. And I think the Raiders are fine offensively. Like, Gruden's done a nice job this year of really, bringing this youth movement together. But this is a terrible spot for them. They have a much more meaningful game next week against the Chiefs, who are coming off of their bye. They probably are thinking, trip across the country to New York. We're the favorites. We get this done, and then and then we got to get ready for this Chiefs game, which hate to see teams in this type of a spot. The Cowboys fit this narrative exactly earlier this season as they were looking ahead to their game against the Eagles and went up to the Meadowlands and just got punked. So this is probably a good Jet spot. I played the over. I'm regretting it. So hopefully the weathermen are wrong, which I know they are at least 50% of the time. So that's all I got going for me.
The Sports 78 says, I'll say it right now. I bought the hook with the Jets and laid $5K. Jesus, big boy bet for the Sports 78. This value game of the week, in my opinion. Nico says, letdown spot for the Raiders. Get the Jets. Dennis Garcia says, would love to see Oakland win this game, but how can they not be looking ahead to Kansas City next week? Kevin Carter liking the Jets game under. Craig77 said, Oakland will not like the cold weather, leaning Jets. Tomino says, Jets can stop the run, but they have no pass rush. Gerald Jones says, Jets. Oakland -25 differential for the year. Wrong team favored. Tormino says Carr should have lots of time to throw, good offensive line, and Jets have no pass rush. I'm on the over. Wow. I've got no play on this game at this point. All right, let's move into Panthers Saints. And this is one that I wanted to talk out. I was very, very close to pulling the trigger here. This total in Panthers Saints opened up at 48. Now we have 47s across the board. New Orleans opened up at -8.5. Now we have -10s across the board. Carolina defense entered this week, tied for the NFL lead in sacks at 39, third in the league in interceptions at 12. McCaffrey is being spectacular, especially spectacular when you think he's their only option, really. Allen was sacked 5 times last week by the Falcons, threw a career-high 4 interceptions. At the beginning of the first 4 starts, he goes for 7 TDs and 0 picks. And then in his last 4 starts, 3 touchdown passes and 9 picks. I mean, the Saints are going to be all over him. He looks susceptible right now. I still don't know if I want to take the 10 points, but I completely understand anybody who does. But what I want to take is the under and the Panthers team total under at 17.5. Let's start with Donnie Rightside. Should I pull the trigger? Are you making a move on Panthers Saints?
I don't have a particular play on this game, Jimmy, but I do agree with your look on the unders here. Divisional game, and when we're taking a look at the New Orleans Saints again, it's funny. It's crazy to say that they are a defensive built team. Yes, they still have a good offense, but their defense is a top 10 improving defense. I can get after the pass rush. And what do we like about the Carolina Panthers? Maybe the balloon is a little bit bursted here. The same way you take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars with their young quarterback Gardner Minshew is amazing, and then all of a sudden it tapers off. So now you're getting some film on what this kid likes to do, what routes he likes to throw, what routes he doesn't like to throw. It looks like some of these teams are squeezing. And when you're a turnover-prone quarterback at this point, that's going to be a problem taking it on the road. 47, 48 points, I think, is a little bit expensive in this football game. Do I think that the New Orleans Saints should be able to win? Can they get to that 10-point margin? That seems also a little bit expensive for me. But getting it down to, Christian McCaffrey, he's going to make plays in this game, but you're also looking at a team that holds teams to an average of about 85 yards per game on the ground. They should slow down Run CMC. I'm not so sure if their quarterback, Kyle Allen, can throw them to victory in this game. It's a tough one with the double digits. I would lean, since it's in the division, of getting the points in this game, but I do think it's going to be a little bit on the lower scoring side as opposed to pushing this one into the 50s, Jimmy.
Wow. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Tomor says, I'd lean Carolina. Saints have been horrible at home, laying big numbers. I don't see the Saints running up the score. Tomor says, I'd lean under. Jeff Billings says, I like the Panthers with the points and Panthers money line. Big bounce back win. That's wild. Sports 78 says Saints are no play. Carolina's season was on the line last week and they laid an egg. Last time Saints were at home, they were embarrassed by Atlanta. I expect a full effort. Whale Capper, Panthers, Saints. You think I should pull the trigger on the under and the Panthers team total under?
I do like the under. I think that's probably the best way to attack this game. I think the Saints defense is for real, and I think that's the unit that dictates who wins this from the outright winning standpoint. Carolina really suckered me in pretty good. They played pretty well over the first half of the season. My numbers were all popping that Kyle Allen was a competent, real deal quarterback. Then they go to San Francisco and they just got flat out embarrassed. They came back and had a nice bounce back spot the next week. The following week, they should have gotten that win, or at least had a chance at the win against Green Bay. And then last week, the wheels just completely fell off. And that spooks me a little bit because Ron Rivera is not the kind of coach that I think has a especially good kind of self-reflection, self-diagnosis. He doesn't do a great job of figuring out what's going wrong and making the adjustments to put them in a better chance to succeed. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if you see another very lackluster performance out of this Carolina offense. Clearly, Christian McCaffrey was way overused over the first half of the season. They beat him into the ground, and he is wearing it right now. And they have not done a good job at all of developing weapons in the passing game to give Kyle Allen some easy completions, which really is putting a hell of a lot of pressure on him, a hell of a lot of pressure on the offensive line to keep him upright. And you can see he's kind of coming apart at the seams here. This is going to be a super tough contest for them, hostile environment, and I think that the Saints get the win, although I wouldn't lay the points for the Saints just because this is an offense that still is not clicking. They still have major issues, in terms of consistency, and they're going to be thinking about their Thursday opportunity for revenge against the Atlanta Falcons. So this was a stay away for me, but if there was an angle, I do believe that you are correct. It is the under.
And you would take a full game under rather than focusing on the Panthers team total under, because that team total under is heavily juiced in my book. If I wanted to bet it right now, it would be 17.5 minus 138, which I don't want to do.
Full game under. Yeah.
Full game under.
Yeah, because I honestly like that. The Saints aren't clicking right now offensively. Drew Brees' average depth of target is super short. It's concerning for a lot of reasons. I think that their defense and their running attack is going to have to carry them in the playoffs if the Saints are going to do anything. And I think the one area you could potentially attack Carolina is if you're throwing precision passes deep, and then you're putting pressure on them by scoring 30. 31, 34 or whatever. But I see this much more playing out like the Saints versus the Jaguars kind of game, where it's more field position. It's they win by 7 or something like that, and the full game total likely in the low to mid 40s.
So if you had a free play on the Saints team total at 29.5, would you go under that?
Yeah, I think both team totals are shade under, and I think the full game is probably off by about a field goal.
Donnie Rightside, do you agree that you prefer the full game under rather than the Panthers team total under?
I would just take it as it goes, because I think one of these teams are actually going to be running the clock out at the end of the game. And take a look at the Carolina Panthers struggling against the run. You get some pretty good running backs and a good offensive line from New Orleans. I could see one of those games where 6 to 7 minutes, one team has the football and just gets 3 or 4 first downs and just ends this football game. Give me the full team or full game under.
That's a great point.
I like it. My guy Ant Fam in the house saying, let's go, Jimmy. 20-mile-per-hour winds in San Fran. Are we on this under? I'm on the Niners heavy already. I can't wait to talk about that game. But, Ant, I've got completely different wind. I have it up to like 11 or 12 and then going down to 7 or 6 miles per hour. I've completely different wind. We got to let's look for some more weather forecasts and get our head wrapped around this, because my wind's 14 miles per hour different in that spot. Okay, let's move over to Buccaneers, Falcons. Let's pull up this odds page right now. The total opens up at 54. It's down to 51. Atlanta opens up at -4.5. Now there's 3.5s on the board for the first time. 3.5s on the board. 6-game losing streak. Looks like the Falcons season is over. And they could... I don't want to say it, but... they could make... I'm not going to say it. Okay, Julio Jones, 59 receptions for 882 yards. Calvin Ridley, 8 catches for 143 yards against Carolina. They just have no running game. So Freeman dealing with the injured toe. Brian Hill got the start. He looked terrible. Now it's Kenyon Barner. Barner looked good. He's Special Teams Player of the Week. The guy's supposed to be versatile. Let's get him running the ball. Tampa Bay ranks next to last in NFL in both yards allowed and TD passes surrendered. And then we have Winston, who was hobbling all over the field in the end of that game. Evans and Godwin, 121 receptions, 1,880 yards, most receiving yards by a pair of teammates through 10 games since 2014 when Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders did it. I can't wait to watch this game, and at this point, I don't know it's not on my card. Donnie Rightside, Buccaneers, Falcons.
Yeah, baffling game. And the reason I say that is because this is specifically about the Atlanta Falcons. Take it back to your childhood, right, Jimmy? You're watching like a Scooby-Doo episode, and at the end of the show, they always unmask like the criminal character. Like, oh, it's Mr. James. Like, it's like Bill Belichick is roaming the sidelines right now for the Atlanta Falcons as their head football coach and defensive coordinator with the last 2 outings. And I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out where, let's just say, Tampa Bay runs 30, and you pull it off like, it's Dan Quinn and Petrino over here back for the Atlanta Falcons. That's what it feels like. And I'm trying to get ahead of that curve as opposed to being late, because they were 2 touchdown underdogs 2 weeks ago, and then about a touchdown underdog versus the Carolina Panthers as that line crashed closer to game time. Now you're flipping back over in the favored category, where if the line, let's just say 3.5 at this point, you're going to have to probably win by margin, win by a touchdown. I want to say that's going to be coming to an end. This can't be the Atlanta Falcons. You can't just put Raheem Morris as your defensive secondary coach and you turn into like the 1985 Bears. Something has to give. It's hard to trust the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I understand going on the road and say, boy, the Atlanta Falcons are hot. The good vibes are there. They're not going anywhere in this season. So we'll see how long these good vibes last. I think this in a divisional game, I'm going to lean on the points in this one, because sooner or later, this can't add up. You don't have anybody to run the football for the Atlanta Falcons. Your best tight end is not playing. So if you're just going to tell me, well, Julio Jones is going to go for 7 for 160 and 3 scores, okay, so maybe you have a leg to lean on, but I still don't believe in that defense for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't believe they can stop the offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And sooner or later, that sieve defense that quit on their organization is going to reappear its head. I think it might be this weekend. I don't have a play on my card, but I'm not taking the Atlanta Falcons in a favored role and bang my fist on this desk when I watch the game going, what an idiot I am. So I'm going to lean towards Tampa Bay here.
I'm going to stop leaning towards Tampa Bay for the rest of my life, is what I'd like to do. Looking them run around in those red tights on Sunday, I was shocked. I was watching these like giant athletes running around in these red tights, and I was like, man, did they envision themselves running around in red tights, watching their quarterback limp up into the huddle? It was very disturbing having the Buccaneers last week, and it led me to drink heavily, and I just don't want to go back to that. Whale Capper, Buccaneers, Falcons.
I'll tell you what, guys, as a collective, I feel like we have really struggled with the NFC South this year. I don't know. I know for sure I have. Like, every time I feel like it's time to zig, it's time to zag, I just get blindsided by the way that these teams are performing. So I'm staying off of this one, although I got to tell you, I agree with Donnie's look. This is Buccaneers or nothing. And you know what? Maybe the problem is maybe we upset the gambling gods or the NFL gods by going from Falcons to Falcons this season. So maybe go back to Falcons and we'll start winning NFC South plays again. So yeah, bet the Buccaneers against the Falcons. The Falcons defense, while vastly improved the last 2 weeks, they went up against two quarterbacks that could not throw precision passes deep. Jameis Winston can do it. He's got wide receivers that are broadly more talented, more threatening, more dangerous than anything that Carolina had out there last week. And so I think, last week I was like, yeah, right. This is the Falcons were the beneficiaries of the Saints coming out and playing a flat game. They're not going to be able to do it again. They ran right over me against the Panthers. This week, I feel this like, okay, well, now they're really going to get tested by someone who can sling it. Let's see if they actually are fixed. And, it's on the offensive side for the Falcons, I will say the fact that they haven't had a strong running game because of injuries has inadvertently helped them by leaning on what actually they are the best at. It's kind of unearthed their true talent. So kind of by accident, they're playing optimal offense. And perhaps that continues. This is not a great matchup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. That's for damn sure. They're covering the deep pass extremely poorly. So I guess, when it's all said and done, this is probably a 3-point game. It's probably a Falcons win. A Falcons win. But I will be watching it from the sidelines and hoping that we get our NFC South karma going correctly before Thanksgiving Saints-Falcons matchup.
Things were good. Things were so good when I was calling them the Falcons, man. I was up double-digit units. We were enjoying football. All right, let's move on to Detroit, Washington. Detroit opens up at -2.5, now -3.5. And those are at plus 100 or minus 110, depending on where you shop. But you can get them for plus 100. This total opened at 41.5. It's now at 40.5 across the board. So I've seen Whale Capper's plays on his Twitter, and I was actually leaning towards the Lions team total over and an over. This is the one spot on the Eastern Seaboard that it's kind of nice. 51 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 14 miles per hour. The Redskins have no home field advantage. It's a mess. They've lost 9 straight. It's a real ugly spot over there. 1-4 under Callahan, and it just keeps getting worse. And then you have Detroit ranking 30th in NFL in defense, giving up 412.8 yards a game, 27 plus points per game. Their red zone defense is 28th in the league. They're 24th against the run. That's the only thing the Redskins can do. Haskins looked terrible against the Jets. He got all those numbers in the fourth quarter. I guess I've got a bit of a recency bias because I was on the over in Redskins Jets last week, and that cashed. And I want to go back to the well. But I need to hear Whale Capper on the other side of it and need to talk this more out with Donnie as well. Donnie, Rightside, Lions, Redskins.
Yeah, this game, it's not a really good one. And last week, talking myself from the beginning of the week and liking the New York Jets to the Washington Redskins by the end of the week was maybe my worst look of the season. And my one tweet on Sunday about midway through the game summed it up when I said, somebody please fire this Washington Redskins football team into the sun. So I'm not going to be backing this football team moving forward. And some of the tea leaves that you can already relieve or try to look at from what they're saying is The Washington Redskins are a dead football team. And the reason being, you fire your head football coach. They have a guy in place that has no shot to get the head coaching job. They're going to be looking for a complete turnover. So last week in that football game versus the New York Jets, they benched 3 of the players in the secondary, not necessarily because they were playing bad. It's because they took that approach, Jimmy, that I talked about on Tuesday, Bill Callahan saying, we just want to get a look at some of the depth that we have in the secondary. Good Lord, if you are betting this football team to win this game or even care about winning this football game, we're probably all doing it wrong. Now, when you look at maybe a total, you're right, Jimmy. This is the one game that's lined up and say, hey, late November, 10, 12-mile-an-hour winds, 50 degrees. You should be able to hit the total. And I think they will because that over is so low. But watching Dwayne Haskins have no idea of what he's looking at is just painful when you're looking at a team that you need to score points and actually make effect. They were gifted a couple plays, a turnover on a kickoff, a turnover on an interception. They come away with 3 total points in the red zone from those 2. And I'm saying to myself, how can you back this football team? They're bad on the offensive line. They're average on defense. They don't have very many weapons. And again, it gets back to a quarterback that has no idea what he's looking at. Even the Detroit Lions, who are really poor on the back end, the way you beat this football team is attack them deep and attack them with efficient throws. I don't know if Washington can do that. So I like the total going over just because of how low it is and the weather's going to be nice and 2 bad football teams. But when you look at both of these quarterbacks, boy, you're not getting Brady and Montana back there when you take a look at Driscoll and Haskins. That's what's probably keeping me off of firing the over at this point.
Jeff Billings says, I like the Lions first half and the over. Robert Weimer says, okay, I took Detroit earlier this week, so please take the Skins and you can thank me later. No reason, just do it. Detroit screws me so regularly, I actually pay them for it. Whale Capper, Lions, Redskins.
Yeah, man, never lean Lions. Haskins has no idea what he's doing out there. And this is not the coach. This is not the staff to develop him into any kind of a meaningful NFL quarterback. So this is a totally lost season for him. Maybe he can rebound next year. I like the under because I do not expect that Haskins will be able to take advantage of the weaknesses in the Lions defense. I expect that you're going to see a heavy dose of Adrian Peterson and Darius Geis again. They probably want to see if Geis has got fresh legs, if he can, mix it up at all. Maybe he can, but just the way that Callahan runs his offense, if they are gaining yards on the ground, they eat the clock. I was hoping against hope that there would be an over last week against that Jets team because the Jets offense is figuring it out. They're figuring things out. They're starting to click. They're starting to put points on the board, put pressure on the board. And if it's if this devolves into a blowout again, then yeah, clearly you're going to see some of the bench players take the field for the Redskins, and this under is really going to be a sweat. But I don't think that. I don't think it gets there. And I was hoping that we would see an over last week so that we would get another total in the 40s because Bill Callahan can wipe out a clock better than any coach in the National Football League right now. I think this game is going to go by. It's going to go by flying by. And Jeff Driscoll, 2 weeks ago on the road against the Bears, that was a surprise. They weren't prepared for him. Nobody was prepared for him. He was able to do a little bit of, work a little magic, score 14 points, almost get that cover. But I would attribute that a lot to just the surprise of not having been prepared for him. And then last week, the Cowboys go into Detroit. Jeff Driscoll's at home. He's got, nice, comfortable confines. He's got the benefit of a Cowboys team that weren't scared of the Lions. They weren't tackling particularly well. That defense is playing, somewhat poorly. So I think this sets up for kind of a rude awakening for Jeff Driscoll against a team that I think could tackle a hell of a lot better, that can get a lot of pressure on him. And I think that this turns into a field goal kind of game. I think you're going to see pretty poor red zone efficiency from both teams here. I think that late in this game, there's going to be a probability that the Redskins will be able to, put together some sort of game-winning or game-tying drive. Maybe they get Haskins' first win. This kind of has that whiff to it. Because I got to say, if it's not today, then it's probably not this year.
Yeah, I guess I should just stay off of these terrible, terrible football teams. There are going to be so many other games I'd much more enjoy watching. There's Udon Poe and Ratton, a facty in the house. He likes Redskins covered by a half point. Joe Yurkovich says, Lions have respectability. Redskins do not. Spread isn't too high. Take Detroit. Buffalo on the beat looking at over on run attempts and rushing yards for Driscoll. He likes to run, and Lions could be low. Jeff Billing says, I see the 30s for the Lions and mid-15s to 20s for the Redskins. Wow, okay, I'm going to need to take more time. We have a huge game coming up here. And I went ahead and I took the under in Seahawks Eagles. I had a very, very tough time figuring out what would be my 2-unit play in the pick six. I ended up making this one my 2-unit play. Again, on Tuesday, the weather report didn't look bad. On Friday, it looks bad. 46 Fahrenheit, showers, 15 miles per hour. This is a tricky spot. And we talked on Tuesday about how bad the wide receiver rankings were for the Eagles. 31st in catches, 31st in yards per catch, last in yards. It's their 2 tight ends leading the way for them offensively. And then we finally, from the other side in Seattle, we saw Jadeveon Clowney and Jaron Reed come alive in a big, big way. Clowney, 5 tackles, 5 quarterback hits, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 touchdown. Jaron Reed, Quentin Jefferson, Shaquem Griffin all looked very, very good. And we know what the Philadelphia Eagles are stout at, and that's their offensive line. Their offensive line is so strong. And I don't know, Donnie, if you know what's going on, you'll probably know what's going on with Lane Johnson, and that would be very important to this under. But I already went ahead and took it. Deshaun Jackson out for the season, just waiting on Jeffrey and Howard. We've been waiting and waiting. I feel like this is going to go under, and I went ahead and took it. I got under 48 at -109 at Pinnacle. Donnie Rightside, Seahawks, Eagles.
I like the under look, and it was one of my plays I took in the audible, under 48 points. And we'll get to some of the parameters, but yes, Lane Johnson's going to miss this football game. And here's the things that I always like, because Andre Dillard has shown himself the first-round pick left tackle for the Eagles, filling in for Jason Peters, a pretty good NFL player, especially early in his career. They're going to flip him over to right tackle. So, hey, look at that, man. You got a nice little backup. That's what you draft in the first round for. And they asked him a question yesterday in the locker room, Jimmy. They said, Andre, hey, look, you're going from left tackle to right tackle. Like, what does that mean for you? And he said, figure it this way. You have a huge essay to write, and you write right-handed. Now you got to write with your left hand. So when to put that in perspective, if everything is backwards for you, and just because he's a really good left tackle doesn't mean he's going to be able to make the right calls at right tackle. It's a different kick step. It's different everything, hand placement, what you're looking out for. And then you might get Jadeveon Clowney lined up against you if he does play. He's been banged up this week, but the same things and the problems that we looked at last week are going to show their head against the Seattle football team. When you were going against the Patriots, they're a really good defense. Seattle doesn't have quite the defense that New England has, but look at the difference when Lane Johnson left the football game last week with his concussion as compared to what actually took place in the second half. Night and day, the Eagles didn't even score a point. He's going to miss this game. Now you're going to say, all right, Howard, who's your running back that you're leaning on all year, and he's going to, transform the offense late in the season when it gets to playoff time in cold weather, still going to be out with a stinger. So now we're going to say, hey, you know what? Look who's back. Jay Ajayi hasn't carried a football in like 16 months, but for some reason him and Boston Scott are going to have a really big role in this football game. Alshon Jeffrey, if he does play, will be on one leg. He hasn't been anything close to what he's been the past 2 years. Nelson Aguilar, the worst wide receiver on the team, he's technically still a starter. He might miss this football game. So J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's going to be out there. We're going to have Mac Hollins at wide receiver. I just don't know how it holds up. And this comes from a point from saying, I don't know if Seattle is going to be all that explosive on offense. This is the best the Eagles defense is going to look. Nigel Bradham is going to be back for this football game. Outside of losing Malik Jackson, the first game of the season, to a foot injury, everybody is intact. Everybody is ready to go. So if I'm going to look at the Eagles not ripping off chunk plays or being able to do all that much and then flip it over to Seattle, Seattle has a really good offense if you push them. I'm not so sure the Eagles are going to push them. This line seems extremely high in the high 40s. This game screams 24-17, 24-20. Give me the under all day in this football game. I don't see a lot of explosion plays here, Jimmy.
I like the sounds of that. Tom Marino says I'd lean under. Eagles' defensive line should have a big advantage against Seattle's offensive line. He says Wentz is being garbage with Lane Johnson out. Jeffrey should be back, but Eagles receivers are bad even with Jeffrey back. Ant Pham says Seahawks run. Clock will run. Nick says I love the Eagles D-line. Win this game. Jeff Billings says Jimmy, I'd like the Eagles with the money line and the under. And wow, report just came out. Clowney now questionable. That's the first I've heard of that, Buffo. Thank you for the heads up there. Whale Capper, Seahawks, Eagles.
What the hell is Clowney questionable for?
This is the first I've heard of it. Buffo,
he's actually missed a couple practices this week. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. I mean, they're coming off of a bye, and before the bye, he was the best player on the field against the 49ers, I thought. Damn. Well, that changes the handicap if he doesn't play. I'll just assume that this is precautionary, or he's getting rest because he's a vet or something like that, because it felt like he was coming on and he was going to be a difference maker down the stretch here for the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks in this game. I took them on the money line. I got a plus money number. I think that's still a fair bet. I think that Donnie's handicap on the under was pretty damn strong. It made me think, man, I missed the under here. I should have taken that instead of the money line. And I guess the only thing that would scare me is that there could be some big plays here on the part of Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. This game, as I looked at it, set up a lot like Seattle versus Pittsburgh that we saw week 2. Same kind of team, same kind of, the same kind of strengths and weaknesses here. And I think that you're going to see Seattle be able to put a hell of a lot of pressure on this Eagles team from an offensive standpoint. They're coming together in terms of their wide receiver core. Russell Wilson is having a career season, and pushing for an MVP potentially. So if they have any incentive here beyond just getting a win, I wouldn't be surprised to see them put their foot in the gas a little bit if the Eagles are just having an off day. I do think it will be competitive. I do think the Eagles are still they're still a fairly good team. I just don't think this is their year. The way that their cluster injuries have hit their defensive backs, and now their wide receivers, and now their offensive line. Like these are the areas where they're the deepest, the strongest on their roster, and it stinks that that it has kept them from competing for this NFC East title. I know they're not totally out of it yet, but I think this is probably the nail in the coffin, at least for the time being, because the Cowboys have a little easier schedule from here on in, and I would say that the Eagles, this is one of their last stands. But the Seahawks have just so much more depth and so much more offensive power at this point that I don't know how you can't favor them in this spot.
Yeah, wow. Chris Brady says, I'm all over Seattle money line. William Bentley says, Eagles will finally face a coach who has both the brains and the players to exploit their defense. But Nick O says, Eagles will win the NFC East. I need them to win the NFC East. Okay, let's move on to Jaguars, Titans. And we don't have a ton of time. We don't have much time, so I do want to spend a little bit more time on the games following this, so let's get through this one quickly. Tennessee opening up at -3. They're now at 3.5. This total at 41.5. There is a 42 on the board. Just to make it quick from my end of it, I always lose when the Titans are favorites, and I'm just not going to keep making the same mistake. Maybe this is a spot, especially after their very surprising, maybe undeserved win over the Chiefs. Then they have the bye. The Jaguars were just embarrassed. Foles did not look good. And after looking so bad, he says, we're blessed to play a game. And, fans don't want to hear you say that after losing 33-13 and urging teammates to go home and spend time with their families. Get in the gym, you bum. Tennessee, Jacksonville. I almost made a move on Tennessee all week, and I just stopped myself. Donnie, Rightside, Jaguars, Titans.
I was real close on actually taking the over in this football game. Haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. Looking at 41.5. And the only thing I worry about a little bit is that Jacksonville offense, because I think Tennessee is coming on at the right time here. But that was a season-saving win before the bye week. And now you're going to get one of your better linebackers back in Jayon Brown. You're going to get Jarrell Casey, one of your better defensive linemen back. Seems like all systems go for this offense. Doesn't look like Delaney Walker is going to make it back as a tight end. But Jonnu Smith has been really good. Corey Davis is going to make it back as a wide receiver. And Tannehill's playing really well. So I like this look. And I think the line is a little bit cheap with Tennessee, but as always, Jimmy, we're missing out on the 3. Now you got to look at the 3.5. So us handicappers, what do? We look for value in ways we can twist it around and maybe you find another opportunity. So for the audible, I did take the first half Tennessee Titans -2.5, -113 earlier. I think they're going to be up a field goal or more at the half. I do think they win and cover this football game, but I think rested and ready off the bye, this team's going to be ready to go. Tannehill should have a decent outing. This isn't the old Jacksonville Jaguars defense that we looked at the past 2 to 3 years, leaking a little bit of oil. You can run on this football team. Tannehill has made a marked difference in the offense since taking over from Marcus Mariota. I think Tennessee's the right side here. Haven't fired on the over in this football game just yet, but I like Tennessee in the first half. Give me Tennessee by a touchdown at the half. Let's cash this ticket.
Robert Weimer says, my favorite game of the day. Love the over here. Jeff Billings says, it's a big over. Titans have scored touchdowns on their last 10 trips inside an opponent's 20. They lead the NFL by scoring TDs in the red zone 72% of their trips. Whale Capper, Jags, Titans.
Dude, it feels like a million years ago that Marcus Mariota lost to Gardner Minshew on Thursday Night Football. Like that. These are two totally different teams from then to now. And I have no read on how they match up at all. I thought Foles was going to be more competitive last week against the banged-up Indianapolis defense. He scored a quick early touchdown. It looked like game on, and then he just gave us nothing else. So I really don't know if it's just he's comfortable, he's gotten paid, he knows they're out of it, and he's just trying at this point showcase his abilities to get traded out of there or to make sure he doesn't lose his starting job in the offseason. I'm not sure what the motivations are at all for Jacksonville here. This is a bad spot for them, even though it's a divisional opponent and presumably they go there and play with some pride. I would say the Titans, on the other hand, we were dead right about everything that they needed to do in the preseason. Get rid of Mariota, start Tannehill. What are you doing? They potentially squandered their opportunity to win a couple important early games in division that could have set them up to be at the top of the AFC South. Now they're clawing their way back. I do think they're the right side at 3, but I don't see quite enough of an edge to bet them, especially as it trickles up now to 3.5. The over seems fair to me. There's probably going to be some garbage time points in this one. But again, I can't necessarily bet an over when one of the two offensive coordinators in Art Smith is just randomly he'll pull out a game plan that just is not in any way, shape, or form shaped to attack the weaknesses of his opponent. That could be one of those days. They could throw it a lot at A.J. Bouye and have no success, or they could run it into the tough part of the Jaguars' defensive line and just 2 yards in a cloud of dust with Derrick Henry. So this was a stay away for me. But I think that I generally agree with the sentiment of the Chad and what you and Donnie laid out there, that the Titans and the over are probably the right side.
Interesting stuff. Okay, let's quickly move on to Cowboys, Patriots. What an exciting game. Crazy news coming from the chat. All of a sudden we have Brady with an elbow injury, questionable. There's going to be no Leighton Vander Esch. And also, Brendan W. says there's the flu going through the Cowboys locker room. And Donnie's on the Cowboys team, total over 19.5. And then, Donnie, I pulled the trigger on the Cowboys. Plus 6.5, 43 Fahrenheit, rain, 12 miles per hour. This Patriots offense can't get the ball deep. And Cowboys offense ranked number 1 in the league going into rainy Foxborough. Now, I know Patriots have given up 9 touchdowns on defense in 2019, 4 of which came against the Ravens. But I don't know who the Patriots really are. And if you're going to give me 6.5 points with the number 1 ranked offense in the league and Zeke coming off 2 straight subpar games, 50 yards rushing against Minnesota, 75 against Detroit, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to take a shot with a 6.5, but man, crazy news coming out, and I wish Leighton Vander Esch was in the lineup. Donnie, Rightside, Cowboys, Patriots.
Let's not believe this subterfuge out here coming from the Patriots at this point late in the week. We're just going to throw it out there when we never list Tom Brady. Tell you could have an injury on the Patriots where the guy's arm fell off. I remember one of my favorite stories from the early 2000s when an offensive lineman for the Patriots broke his leg in half and had surgery on a Tuesday and was listed questionable for the following week. Don't believe a single thing coming out there. You know what this leads me to believe by Bill Belichick in this game, Jimmy? They line up and they go full go. What I mean by that is lining up quick snaps, 4 wide receivers, 1 running back just to catch passes, and up-tempo the entire way down the field. You're telling me the Patriots, of all teams, are going to let slip on a Friday that their quarterback is having elbow injuries, leading you to believe that he's not going to be able to throw the football and we're going to run the football? You've got to be kidding me with this football game. I still like it embedded early in the week. The team total of Dallas Cowboys, 19.5. I think there will be points in this football game. As long as we don't get crazy weather, both of these teams, I believe, will be able to move at 45s, 44.5 now showing up here with the injury. I'm not believing a single thing coming out of the camp from the Patriots. Do I think they are a little bit hobbled on offense? Yes. Getting the left tackle back will help. I think they'll be able to run the ball somewhat here. Leighton Vander Esch is going to miss the football game for the Dallas Cowboys, but I do think Brady's going to go up-tempo to shake things up at home. I think the Cowboys are still going to be able to score points. This is one of the better teams in the NFL, not getting a lot of respect on offense. You can argue they're the single best offense in football. 19.5, I think they'll get into the 20s. I think New England gets into the 20s as well. I think the Cowboys will keep it close. So if we're looking at a score somewhere in that 27-24 type range, I honestly believe that this game will end up here.
I mean, we talked on Tuesday. I was about to triple up. I was about to take both team total overs and the full game over, and the weather has changed. That slowed me down with rain, but I hear what you're saying. And Jeff Billings says it's an over game. I know a ton of people on the under. But let's hear what Whalecat has to say. Dallas, New England.
Man, let's do a little thought experiment. I got a question for you, Jimmy. Let's assume Donnie's right and that Tom Brady broke his leg this week and had surgery, and now he's questionable. And they slot Stidham in at the last minute. Does this line change?
Yes, it changed.
How much? How much?
I know that.
I mean, how much is Brady worth right now?
In comparison to Stidham, I think he's still 6 points.
6.
That's
points.
right.
You think it'll be a pick'em?
Look, I watched Stidham.
Man.
I watched Stidham throw that pick six. Yeah, I watched Stidham come in late and clean up, and I had the team total under in that game, and the Jets put up 0 points offensively, but Stidham came in and took money out of my pocket.
I got you. Okay, so just the fact that Stidham could potentially be a turnover machine and could take you out of the game, you think they adjust line? Okay, because as I break this down and I'm kind of counting the various factors of what's going to matter and, why, as I'm weighing both sides, like Brady's pretty low on the list of like things that I think will be important in this game. He's not playing great this year. He's kind of in the bottom third of quarterbacks in terms of what he's been able to do. He doesn't have any chemistry going on right now with his wide receiver, tight end core, or even his running backs. Like he's got Edelman only. I mean, shit, Edelman threw the damn game-winning touchdown pass last week against the Eagles. So, like, there's really not a lot going well for Brady this season, and he's really come back to earth in a hard way. And I think that you're going up against a team that can move the ball on you in various ways. This is going to be a really tough test for the Patriots defense. I think, if you, again, another thought question for you. Let's say you had these exact same rosters and the game was being played in the same conditions in Foxborough, but you switched the coaching staffs. Is New England favored?
Well, I mean, backing Garrett scares the shit out of me. It's the last thing. Right. It's the last thing I want to do. The last thing I want to do. You're right. If Belichick comes in coaching the Cowboys would be favored here. Garrett is that bad.
Yeah, and it's wild that coaching could be worth potentially more than Brady. But I think that's where we are right now with the Patriots, and I think I backed the Cowboys. I took the 6.5 points. It took me a lot of soul searching and a lot of kind of antacid to get there because I am worried about Garrett doing something stupid. But the Patriots defense can be rushed on. They can be scored on. And Dak Prescott will be the toughest quarterback they have faced to this point in the season. I think that if you get any kind of semblance of performance out of Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard out of the rushing attack, if the Cowboys can play from ahead at all in the second half of this game, they can play a little bit of keep away, keep that Patriots defense on the field, really kind of gas them a little bit because the Patriots defense has been doing all the heavy lifting so far for this team, and it's going to be on the defense again to keep the Cowboys under 20 if they're going to get a win. I don't know that I see the Patriots easily getting to 20, regardless of the quarterback situation. There really is nothing that I'm especially scared about in stopping that offense, and the fact that Leighton Vander Esch is out, honestly, is probably an upgrade on their defense. Him playing with the injury he has had. He has been a liability, and his tackling has been really, really poor this year. The game against the Minnesota Vikings was a great example. He was playing with so little energy, and they were consistently taking shots at him with Dalvin Cook, and that was the difference in that game that got the Vikings that win. So even a replacement level player coming in for Leighton Vander Esch, I think, is an upgrade, and I think the Dallas is very live to get a win on Sunday.
Well, that makes me very excited. We've got to put a bow on this show, and we have two enormously exciting games to talk about. Packers, Niners. I pulled the trigger on the Niners. I just feel like they're that much better of a football team than the Packers. And I know there's a lot of Packers lovers out there who are like, that's ridiculous. Rodgers, Jones off of a bye. I talk about soul searching. I've been staring at this game. Flash sitting beside me. He's all over the Packers, telling me why he's going to back the Packers. Kittle's going to come back. And I know that the Niners aren't running the ball the same, and Kittle will help blocking wise, but without Breda. But I just think the Niners are at home, can win by over 3 points here. I'm on the Niners. Donnie, right side as fast as possible. I'm sorry to rush you through this, but Packers, Niners.
No, I'm leaning towards the San Francisco 49ers. You get a little bit of better updates there with Emmanuel Sanders. Looks like he's going to go. Kittle's going to go. But they still are a banged-up football team. You get the advantage if you have a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. I get it. He's going to come off a bye. He's going out to San Francisco. I think San Francisco, I think the price is right at 3. I think that's a fair number. I'll lean with the home team here to keep it quick, Jimmy.
I like hearing that. I like hearing that from Chris Brady saying Niners are a sharp bet, Jimmy. Joseph Penempede saying Niners big time. Whale Capper, how are you handling this spot? And we got to keep it tight.
Well, the last time the Niners played a team coming off a bye, they beat them 51-10 or something stupid. So I think that sets up pretty well for this game here. No, in general, at the current number, I think the Niners are the right side. I wouldn't be surprised if this drifts back up to 3.5 or 4 by a kickoff. I like that. I like the over. I played the over earlier in the week when it was a much lower number. I didn't put it on my card because you can't get those numbers anymore, and it's not fair or cool to do that sort of thing. But if this keeps going up, if it's 49 or 50 by kickoff, I'm probably going to come back on the under and try to grab a middle here. I think this sets up pretty well for Niners, kind of 27-21 sort of a win. Get a close cover, but they are the better team, and I think the Packers are somewhat fraudulent, and especially on the road, I think the Niners should get it done.
We got to go. Monday nighter Ravens-Rams. Ravens, the most public bet of the season. The most public bet of the season at this point. And I'm not going to back them here, even though they've been spectacular. In less than 30 seconds, Donnie, Ravens-Rams.
Yeah, but I actually like the over in this football game. Jared Goff, we know, has been struggling, but anybody's going to struggle without their top 2 weapons at wide receiver. Both of those guys should be back in this football game. I think Lamar Jackson and the offense will be able to score for Baltimore. Give me the over 46.5.
Over in the Ravens-Rams. Interesting. Whale Capper, very as fast as possible. Ravens-Rams, the Ravens' most public bet of the year so far.
Leaning Rams, leaning over, holding my breath and waiting for the second half, and I'm going to pounce on the Rams if they're down or tied.
Wow, God, I wish I could ask you questions about that, but I can't. Let's put up the. That's so interesting. We gotta figure out how to get more information. Rafa, let's take a look at Donnie Rightside's action for this weekend that he's locked in, and I've locked in 2 extra plays, right? 2 extra looks on this first game on the Dolphins. Oh no, just 1 extra look, the over. There's Donnie's action.
Yes.
So Donnie also has Miami-Cleveland over 45.5 at -110. Let's quickly go to Whale Capper's action here.
Great looking card. Those look like winners too.
There it is. That is God, I need a week here. And let's look at my action. I'm going to be adding plays to this. And
that one's a banger.
Feel free to fade away. Take those notes down. But I'm telling you, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back in these last 5 weeks. I got to come back. I need to come back. You guys, we have no show without you guys. William Bentley, Chris Brady, Clint from NYC to VA, Jeff Billings, Pie Guy, Robert Weimer, EJV, Craig 77, DX Filer, all you guys, Anthan, Brooklyn Funk Project, Joseph Penempede, all you guys, man. We have no show without you guys. Sonny Vega, Chris Brady, David Hutton, Vitalis, Udon Pornoratina, Facty, Kevin Carter. Thank you guys for all that you do for us by putting all your great insights and your humor into the show. You make it so exciting to be a part of it. Donnie Rightside, any last words for these great cappers in the chat and those watching from home?
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's get it after it this Sunday. We got a big day on Sunday. We'll meet up back on Tuesday with our riches, Jimmy, which we won't even be able to sit down. We'll have so much money in our back pocket after this weekend. I'm excited.
Oh, I find that very difficult for me to believe. Oh, God. Whale Capper, any last words?
Thank you for joining us today. Tune in next week as we continue to take it back, Jimmy. We are taking it back.
Oh, God. Oh, I love working with you guys. Love working with all you guys in the chat. I have 6 very relaxing minutes before betting with the bag. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's have a big, big weekend. We'll see you again Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Get that cash.
All right, boys. Good one.